This episode of Listen In is brought to you by Brondo, the thirst mutilator. It's got electrolytes.
Oh, yeah!
So Terry, here we are at Amen and Amen Studios. There's got to be a great story behind the name of your new shop.
All amen means is so be it. And it's not religious. It's just one of those things that I said, when I heard the term, I went, wow, that's deep. Like, when you learn the meaning of certain words, you just say, so be it. And it's very, very important to me because there's a huge gap, a chasm between talking and doing. For years, I used to talk about everything. And then my wife would call me all the time, like, you know what, you've been talking about that a lot. Because this is the problem. Talking feels like you're doing. Tweeting feels like you're doing. You know, all this stuff feels like you're doing, but you're not doing. And the word so be it, it just meant so much to me because it fills that gap. Like, so be it. That means not only can you talk about it, you have to do it. I got with my friend who's a fashion designer. He has designed everything I've worn for red carpets all the way to AGT for the last 15 years. His name is Nana Boating. And we always used to say, when we see something we like, I'll be like, amen. And he'd be like, and amen. Which means not only just so be it, now it's so be it. So be it and so be it. Like, it's all this agreement. And it just meant so much. Like, we're not gonna talk, we're gonna do.
I love it. Thank you so much for being a guest on our show. And I want to start in the way back machine because, you know, I've been at the Eisenberg Network for almost 12 years, and it's given me a lot of time to think about advertising and what that means to me personally. And, you know, I got the great privilege to work on Mattel brands for a while, which always made me think of Sunday morning cartoons. And all the great commercials that we watch. We're Gen Xers, right? We're the Saturday morning cartoon watchers.
That's right.
When you think back of your childhood and growing up, what are some advertising spots or commercials or campaigns that you remember?
You know, what's so crazy is how they become part of your lexicon. And like everything that you think and the way you act, you're like, man, that was from that spot that I saw years ago. The one that I'm thinking of in particular is a Sucrets commercial.
Nice.
Barbara, you up? Barbara, you up? I'm up now. Now, my wife and I still do that. And I literally, every time I want to wake her up, I go, Barbara, you up?
Barbara, you up?
I'm up now.
Another thing was, I think it was I Can't Believe It's Not Butter. And it had a little thing that went, butter. Like the cap just went, butter.
Butter. What? Butter. What? Butter.
Don't mess with me.
And it was so bizarre that you never forgot it.
A lot of us know you from your Old Spice commercials. Oh, I think we got what we came for.
I give them what they want, baby. I give them what they want.
That's amazing because so it's something that we reference all the time because it was such a groundbreaking campaign because it was so meta, it was so memeable, it was so gifable. Like everything kind of changed after that.
I just stick it to the inside of my dryer and I never have to remember.
Old Spice body spray makes you smell like power! It's so powerful it sells itself in other people's commercials.
What was it like being part of something that was just like in the mass consciousness, like everybody knew these spots?
What was so wild is that I was only contracted to do one commercial. In the first bit of commercials we ever did, my abs talked, and it was like, abdominals. And it reminded me of the parquet, you know, like, not butter.
It was my abdominals.
I just thought, wait a minute, like this is part of my upbringing and this is part of my lexicon. This is where I'm at. And they saw how much I loved what was going on. And I started adding things. Like they didn't know I could pop my pecs.
Right.
And I did it and they were like, do that again, wait a minute. And wait, on the day, I had the amended contract and we came up with 3 more commercials on the day.
That's so
which
cool.
was nuts. The whole, you know, the block, that was an improvised spot.
Old Spice odor blocker body wash. Block, 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 block.
It was not planned. All this stuff was really stream of consciousness, which is one of the reasons why I feel it worked. We didn't think it out too much.
Well, as an advertising creative, I wish there was more talent that gave us free script ideas on the set like that. You are now a spokesbee for Honeycomb.
Let me tell you, I got weepy. On this, I got a chance, because I grew up eating honeycomb, and to be a part of such an iconic cereal and to be a part of the lore of what honeycomb is, I thought, this is post-honeycomb. This is like my childhood. What can I say? I jumped, I was like, you had me at hello.
Let's get this day going.
Aren't you...
Kevin, can we have a man-to-man beat talk? You got a big day today! Missing the bus, math pop quiz, awkwardly asking Lisa out.
What?
So let's get her going with Big Honey Crunch.
The great concept, the bee, the whole deal, I said, this right here is in my wheelhouse.
Do you remember the song from when we were kids? Honeycomb's big. Yeah. It's not small. No.
Honeycomb's got a big bite, big taste, and a big bite. Right. See, listen. You see that?
That's Kevin crunching the day. Honeycomb!
It sounds like you're very aware of your brand. It's the Terry Crews brand is something you've been cultivating for a long time. So we're often talking about brand strategy and branding and rebranding. How would you define your brand as it is today?
Health, wealth, and love. That's my brand. That's Terry Crews. And I want to be really frank. I've turned down a lot of things. I will never do advertisements for alcohol. I'll never do advertisements for gambling. And I've been offered a lot. I've turned down millions of dollars. But when I look at what I built, it all paid off. You know what I mean? Just by resisting that easy money and deciding selling health, wealth, and love. You know what I mean? And when I say wealth, it's not even about money. It's literally realizing and being thankful for all the great things you have.
Yeah.
Because we always can focus on what we don't. But I decided, I remember back when I was in Flint, Michigan, and you didn't have nothing. You know, when you're a kid, and I have to say, I grew up poor, but I didn't know I was poor. You know what I mean? I just was wealthy because I said, I'm having fun every day with my friends. This is life, and I love it. And I try to stay there all the time, and this is what I'm selling, nonstop.
We've talked a lot about your creativity today, your approach as a maker and a creator, but it goes beyond acting, it goes beyond writing, beyond dancing, beyond your pecs. Even this chair is a Terry Crews.
Yes.
Tell me about that. Like, having your own studio is cool. Having your own furniture in your own studio is really cool.
I cannot describe the satisfaction of sitting on something that was in your mind, you know, a year and a half ago. It's like my own $100 million movie.
Hey everybody, it's Terry Crews and
Isaiah Crews.
So Terry, I follow all your channels. And in doing so, I feel like I've gotten to know other facets of you that we never might have gotten to if we were just hanging out. Tell me about your approach to social. Like, you have millions of followers, 15 million followers on TikTok.
Yes.
That is so cool. Like, what is your approach to the channels? What is your strategy?
Listen, you know, this goes back to the early Old Spice stuff where don't overthink it. Every attempt to go viral fails. It just does.
Viral's a result, not a strategy, right?
Thank you.
It's an outcome.
Do not strategize to go viral.
Yeah.
That's your first mistake. I swear I had posts that I thought, holy cow, this is it. This is man's gift to mankind. Terry Crews has done it. Pow! And it's like 3 likes. You're like, what in the world? And I've made all the mistakes too. I mean, when you're talking about Twitter, woo! It's
You stepped in it, huh?
Yeah, I stepped in it. But you know, I remember being activated by trolls. There can be literally 5,000 people saying they love you, and one guy going, and you're like, and all you can think about is that one guy. How can I get him or her or whatever? And dude, I would get activated all the time. And let me tell you one message that got through to me. And it was, I don't remember the name of the person, but they came back and they said, Terry, they said, man, we tell you we love you all the time. And all you do is react to whoever is talking bad things about you. Man, Terry, why don't you notice us? And I realized that. And I went, you know what? You're right. You're right. My social media is only for my tribe. Everything is only for the people who get me and like it. That is the mistake everyone tries to make. You try to make your thing for everyone, and it's impossible. I decided that I had to affirm who I was. And I heard really, really dangerous talk, and I said, I have to stand up, make this statement, and when whatever happens, it's gonna happen. And one thing I said was that defeating white supremacy without white people creates black supremacy. Like it or not, equality is the truth. We're all in this together. That set the internet on fire. But I established who I was. And I looked at my wife, and my wife said, I'm proud of you. I looked at the people who loved me, and they said, I'm proud of you. My social media, like I said, it's part of what I'm selling. When I go back to health, wealth, and love, and every person on earth is entitled to that.
Marketing science is a big part of what we do at Eisenberg and Space Camp, getting to know our audience better, getting to know our demographics better. You know, we're Gen X. I hate to break it to you, no one's marketing to us anymore. They're marketing to Gen Z, which is so exciting, an incredible generation. And one of the things that we hear over and over again, and that we try and bring into our work, is authenticity. Gen Z values authenticity more than any other generation before that in reading about Stronger Together. Authenticity and even vulnerability. I dare say that you're probably the most vulnerable expendable.
Yeah. The vulnerables.
Yes, the vulnerables. That's a spinoff. But tell me about Stronger Together. Tell me about your approach to be so open and vulnerable when a lot of people have armor on.
Well, first of all, I grew up with armor. You know, when you're talking about a little kid, African American from Flint, Michigan, and the culture, even hip hop culture from, you know, the Midwest culture. I like to describe myself as a reformed, toxic male. I was that guy. You know, I bought into a lot of things that were wrong and I believed that I was more valuable than all the women in my life simply because I was a man. And I have to tell you, I was taught that. It was one of the things that I had every example that my father was very abusive to my mother. The relationships that I saw even going around and about were all about misogyny. And the best way I could really describe it is that a husband owned his family. He didn't really love his family. And that was the expectation. And that was me. And the day my wife said, that's enough, and she walked out, was the day I was like, wait a minute. I think I got this wrong. What was wild is that I was very successful at the time. But success is the best place to hide because you're successful. Everybody loves you. Everybody's great. You have so many people saying you're fine, but I wasn't fine. And this is where authenticity comes from because, you know, if I just let you know everything great I'm doing, it's not authentic. But when you know that Terry Crews messed this all up, then you go, wait a minute, he can talk about both. Then you can believe me.
You feel a little bit better about your own issues that maybe you're wrestling with.
Well, everyone in their own stuff, you feel alone. You feel like it's only you. I, at the time, thought I was the only person with this problem because no one wanted to talk about it. So I said, wait a minute, if I go out there as the person who talks about my issues, we can actually, you know, kind of galvanize around the fact that, wait a minute, we're not alone. Because I went to rehab for pornography addiction. And so, but I was on the other side. I was coming into, me and my wife had reconciled and we were in a new place in our life. And in 2014, I decided to put out a video in my car. I just leaving the gym right here in Pasadena. And I just said, I'll use this Facebook Live to talk about, hey, yeah, you know, I was addicted to pornography. And if you are, you're not alone. And this is what it did. And I just want to talk about it. And maybe we can help some people. Dude, I'm thinking there's going to be a small segment of people go, yeah, that was viral.
The thing what I found is that by not telling people, it becomes more powerful. But when you tell and when you put it out there in the open, just like I'm doing right now, to the whole world, it loses its power.
That vulnerability, as you're doing it, there's an uncomfortableness, you know. But I learned a long time ago to be very comfortable being uncomfortable. Because there's a Ralph Waldo Emerson quote that I love, is that God will not have his work made manifest by cowards. Ralph Waldo Emerson. And I went, wow. I said, anything worth anything takes this kind of courage. And the groundbreaking thing about Stronger Together, that we did it with Audible. And it's not in written form. It's literally a conversation between me and my wife. And what my book did was give you a 2D version. But now with Stronger Together and my wife's involvement and her side of all these incidents, it put everything in a 3D perspective.
Terry, one of my favorite things about getting to know someone is seeing their bookshelves. How do you get your inspiration from all these great books?
I like to say that my book collection is the most valuable thing I own. There's nothing more valuable in my life than my book collection. You know, when we talk about just the changes that I needed to make in my life, came from a book that I read from someone who put it in a book, and it gave me a whole new perspective about being a man. And I was like, man, and that's when I got into the whole thing about I needed to write a book. Now, this is my first book. This is the one that
Oh yeah, we were talking
changed
about
the game in a lot of ways. Come on into my office.
Nice. Oh wow.
Oh,
Incredible. You know you've made it when you have a library ladder.
oh, and also a version of myself.
That's right. What's his name?
You know, it came from a story where there was a man who had various problems, and he had a crooked back. He decided to make a statue of himself, but he demanded that they make it with the back straight. And over time, the man kept looking at the image of himself as with a straight back, and he slowly but surely, his back straightened out.
Wow.
Over the years. And I thought, what a great image. And I keep this person, this version of Terry here, because I said, always look at yourself that way. Keep an ideal and keep that ideal and go for that. So that's the story. But also here's my ideals.
Wow.
All here, my books, again, it's just the most important thing.
And the comic books, did you grow up reading comics?
All day. I was a big comic fan. This is how I learned to draw.
In my hand, I'm holding a book called Come Find Me with illustrations by Terry Crews. Tell me about what makes this book so special.
It was 1995, and I was on the Washington Redskins, and a friend of mine who was an all-pro football player named Ken Harvey knew that I was an artist. And I actually had an art scholarship before I had a football scholarship. And I was always an illustrator. And in my years in the pros, it was always like, you know, the PR team would always come to me because they needed a good story to make up for all the bad ones. That somebody just got caught doing something bad.
Right.
We need Terry Crews to come in here and we'll show an artist football player. And so I used to do a lot of the local TV and show that I could draw, and I'm left-handed, right-brained. And Ken saw my work and he said, man, I would love for you to illustrate something I wrote. And he wrote a very simple first-time reader book called Come Find Me. And it featured his two sons. And the reason he wanted it to be about his two sons, because you have to understand, at the time, and even now, it's very, very rare to find African-American heroes or even characters in children's books. It's just rare. Well, flash forward 22 years, I get famous as an actor and the whole thing, and I said, Ken, how about that book? I said, can we redo it? We decided to make it a totally AR pop-up book, which is insane, incredible. Animated AR characters that you use an app called the Come Find Me app, and you put it on the book and the characters pop right out in 3D, and you can go all around them. They actually move, you touch things, and it's all like never been done. Verizon actually counted it as one of the best AR children's experiences anywhere.
That's so wonderful. I mean, it's not a well-known part of your narrative that you're really into technology and innovation, like AR, cutting-edge books. I don't know if any of our viewers have noticed, but we're not really actually out on a mountaintop right now. We're in your new LED wall studio, amen and amen. I think this is the coming out party for it.
This is it.
Tell us the genesis. What inspired you to build an LED studio?
Once COVID started, we were doing AGT and it shut down. And we realized, oh my God, the world will never be the same. With COVID, it changed the way films had to be done. And what I noticed about most studios all around LA is that they were filthy. And then when this happened, we found this place and we said, we're gonna create a new studio for the new millennium. It's going to be COVID friendly. It's going to be secure. It's not going to be giant because with this new technology, we could actually, you don't need a giant space. You look at us, we're outside right now and we don't need to be. When I saw the ability for the virtual production, like when I saw what the LED wall can do, because originally I was thinking of putting like a very small LED wall about doing something maybe just for decoration. But when I saw what it could do, like you could do a full movie in this place. We are in a very, very small space and I decided that small was going to be the new big. Another yogurt down the drain.
We are on the set of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. We could be on the set of anything in this place.
That's right.
It's unbelievable. I feel like I have powers. Like I could just grab this, lift it up, and send it flying.
You just did it.
I'm coming to you live from the White House with a very special guest today, President Dwayne Elizondo Herbert Mountain Dew Camacho. President Camacho, what kind of president were you?
I was the kind of president that didn't put up with no shit. Because first and foremost, if you let these motherfuckers run your shit, what kind of shit do you got?
The big thing is that I also knew is that most people would never be able to access this technology. Right now, the big studios are spending hundreds of millions of dollars and they have these giants, they could just throw money at everything. But I said, well, what about this guy who wants to make a video, who's trying to do something super creative? That's what this place is for. It gives access to someone, some creative who can come here and bring their IP in here and get it done. Make that intellectual property, own it, and now you have it. And I thought, right now, we can do whole graphic novels and any idea that you have, you will be able to see it all the way to fruition, like from beginning to end, right here in this studio. That's the goal, and that is what we are doing right now.
You're really also about empowering the creative communities. But it reminds me of your power social currency, another way that you're really putting yourself and your brand out there to help other creatives lift up. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Listen, first of all, what I love about what crypto is, it democratizes so much. You know, when we talk about the problem of racism, we talk about the problem of any kind of ism, technology can be an answer. And one example I have is that even after I was famous, when I would go to New York, I would always have to put in extra time for when the cabs wouldn't pick me up. This is just the reality. I'm a very large black man. A lot of times I raised my hand and the cars would go right by. And I always had to put in, make sure every meeting has at least an hour in between it.
Buffer.
Because I got to walk.
Yeah.
And I knew the Cavs wouldn't get me. So, and this went on for a long time. And then my manager was coming out of the hotel one time, we had another meeting, and he was like, he had the app, he had Uber. And I went, what are you doing? He said, man, watch this. And he presses this button, car pulls up, we get in, I'm going, what is this, man? What kind of sorcery is this? I'm like, this is insane. That's what technology does. When I created Power, Power is for the artist. It is one of those things where we have always, as an artist, myself, you've always been subject to the middleman. I got to bring it up, man. With William Morris Endeavor just going public, and for millions, billions of dollars, I just have to ask, how much did the artists get? How much? Because I know the first two guys got $300 million apiece. Did the artists of William Morris Endeavor, who are putting in all the work, and you represent them, did they get anything? The answer is probably no. And this has happened for eons. When you look at galleries, when you see artists who put all their work into things, and they only see 10% of what the gallery has brought in. 90% goes to the gallery. And people don't know that. They say, oh man, that art piece sold for $1 million. Well, the artist only got maybe 80 grand.
And if it's resold, then it gets zero.
Zero.
Yeah.
And I'm going, wait a minute. There has to be a way for the artist to skip the middleman. To the artists and the creators out there, power to the people. And what I want is the actual Power community to own its own IPs. And this is another thing, is because it's social, you have to do good.
I have to imagine that the only reason that you decided to choose Pasadena for your studio is because of Daddy's Chicken Shack next door. Is that correct? Proximity to the chicken?
I'm the biggest plug for Daddy's Chicken Shack. It's actually amazing. Pasadena, Old Town Pasadena, is super, super special. This is our spot. And we love this place. Old Town, we lived in Altadena, we've lived in Pasadena proper, we've lived in East Pasadena, we've lived in all over the place. And Old Town has a special history. Just in my life, we've raised our kids here, we go here every weekend, and to be here in this spot, in Old Town Pasadena, just, it's home, man.
It's also like this incredible intersection of art and technology,
right.
You have Caltech, you have JPL,
Yes.
you have Art Center, you have the creative community here. Are there any other collaborators here locally that you're excited to work with as the studio rises up?
My group that I really have unified with is Stargate. And they're based in South Pasadena. Like the cutting edge virtual production studio in Hollywood, period, came and literally vetted this whole place and audited it and made sure everything's right. He said, man, I want to do some co-productions with you. And I was like, oh my God, this is insane. When you look at West Hollywood, it's a whole different vibe. I like to call it above the line. As soon as you go west, you're above the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What they call on the call sheet.
Sure.
It's the actors and all this stuff. But I've never, ever considered myself above the line, ever. I've always been a creative. I sit back on set and talk to all of the crew about how did they do this? What cameras are you using? What's the technology? What's the newest thing? And we sit and talk for hours about this stuff. I remember doing the movie Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs with the Sony set, and I was the only actor who ever went and visited the animators. And
Wow.
they were going, no one's ever come through here. And I was like, and this is not a knock on any actor.
Sure.
But it was just, that's my wheelhouse. This is, to me, how would I do an animated movie and not talk to the people who are actually doing it? I couldn't fathom that. And this is what Pasadena's like. Pasadena has a lot of creators.
I'm going to get you out on one last question. Where do you see Amen and Amen in 5 years?
In 5 years, I see Amen and Amen being a place where creatives can come and make their intellectual property, their IP, from start to finish and own it. And this has been the big missing point and missing part of the business with artists. And I wanted to really democratize what creativity can be. So in 5 years, you'll be able to do a full-fledged, whole film project right here from start to finish and put it out in the marketplace. That's my goal.
That's amazing. Well, Mr. Terry Crews, on behalf of Listen In and Eisenberg and Space Camp and the A Network, thank you so much for being our guest today. This has been a real pleasure.
Thank you, David. Love you, man. Thank you so much.